All right, let's get right into it. So, after you've coated and dried the slurry, you're left with this porous, kind of delicate film. But that electrode is nowhere near finished. The very next step, calendering, is where we transform that film into a super precisely engineered component. It's really the final checkpoint for densification. And in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how it works and, more importantly, the crucial trade-offs you have to navigate.
And to really get why calendering is so critical, you have to look at what comes right before it. See, the coating step, that's what sets your mass loading. It decides how much active material you've got on that foil. But calendering? It's a whole different ballgame. That's what sets the volumetric density. It takes all that mass and dictates exactly how much space it's going to occupy. This is it. This is your last chance to dial in that perfect balance between a battery's energy and its power before it's off to assembly.
So what is calendering, really? Well, mechanically, it's pretty straightforward. You're taking that coated electrode foil and you're passing it through a pair of highly precise, often heated rollers. And these rollers, they apply an immense amount of force, compressing that porous structure of active material and binder. The entire goal here is to hit a target thickness, porosity, and density with just extreme uniformity.
Now, getting that kind of precision isn't just about squeezing the electrode as hard as you can. No, it's more like a delicate dance, and it's controlled by 4 key parameters. You can think of these as the main levers an engineer gets to pull to really shape the final quality and the performance of that electrode. So let's take a look at each one.
You know what's really fascinating is how these 4 variables are always in conversation with each other. First up, you've got line pressure. That's just the raw force being applied. More pressure means more compression, which means higher density and lower porosity. Makes sense, right? Second, the roller gap. This sets the absolute final thickness you're aiming for. These two obviously work hand in hand. Then there's roller temperature. And applying heat is absolutely crucial because it softens up the binder, making it more pliable. This is what helps prevent cracking under all that pressure, and it dramatically improves the electrode's final mechanical strength. And last but not least, calendering speed. This sets your throughput, of course, but it also determines how long the electrode is actually exposed to that heat and pressure. Go too fast, and the binder might not activate properly. Go too slow, and you just kill your production rate. It's a constant balancing act. So, once you start mastering those 4 levers, you run right into the central conflict of calendering, the porosity trade-off. Seriously, every single decision you make boils down to striking a balance between how much energy you can pack into a cell and how quickly you can get that energy both in and out. And this all comes down to one thing, controlling the void space inside the electrode.
And just so we're all on the same page here, when we say porosity, we're simply talking about the fraction of void space inside that compressed electrode film. It's all the empty volume that's eventually going to be filled with electrolyte, which, creates the pathways for ions to travel. The final value for porosity is honestly one of the most important numbers in all of battery design.
This brings us to the engineer's dilemma. This is the big choice. On one hand, you can calendar to a really low porosity, a super high density. The upside, you've packed as much active material as you possibly can into that volume. You're maximizing volumetric energy density, perfect for an EV that needs long range. But the downside, you've just created a dense, complicated path that really slows down ion transport, and that hurts your rate capability, so slower charging and discharging. On the other hand, you could go for a higher porosity. This creates these wide-open channels for ions to move freely. It's fantastic for power, for fast charging. But the trade-off is pretty obvious. You have less active material, and that means a lower energy density.
So the big question is, how do you strike that perfect balance for whatever it is you're trying to build? Well, the thing is, the decision about porosity isn't made in a vacuum. Calendering gives you other critical benefits that make sure the electrode doesn't just perform well on day 1, but that it can actually survive for thousands of cycles.
Yeah, that balance isn't just about porosity. When you get beyond density, calendering is just fundamental to the electrode's long-term quality and its mechanical stability. This whole process isn't just about compression. It's about forging a tough, durable component that's ready for cell assembly and a long operational life. And this right here shows the first major benefit perfectly: a smoother surface. An electrode that hasn't been calendared is rough, it's uneven. By compressing it, we create a flat, uniform surface. And for manufacturing, this is totally non-negotiable. It's what ensures cells can be stacked or wound uniformly. It prevents any high spots from creating stress points that could literally puncture the separator, and it guarantees consistent pressure and electrical contact across the entire cell. It's huge. The second major benefit is all about what's happening inside the electrode. Remember that heat from the rollers?
Well, that heat activates the binder, basically turning it into a powerful glue. This process anchors all the active material particles not just to each other, but it also strengthens their bond to the current collector foil. This kind of mechanical integrity is absolutely vital. It's what prevents delamination and stops material from shedding as the electrode expands and contracts during every single charge and discharge cycle. This is what gives a cell its cycle life, plain and simple.
So, if we're going to sum it all up, calendaring isn't just some simple pressing step at the end of the line. It is a highly controlled, precision process. It's all about balancing these competing objectives that define a great battery: the need for high energy, the demand for high power, and the absolute requirement for longevity. It's really the point where the theoretical design of an electrode smacks right into the physical reality of manufacturing.
And that leaves us with a really critical question for the future. We've gotten pretty good at perfecting our strategies for graphite anodes and the conventional cathodes we use today. But as we start moving toward materials like silicon, which swells like crazy, or totally new cathode chemistries, how are our calendaring strategies going to have to evolve? The fundamental principles, sure, they'll probably remain, but that precise balance of pressure, heat, and speed, that is definitely going to need to be reinvented.